This week's guest of the show is a commercial real estate boss. Or does your partner take that name, or is mom boss?
Mom boss is Bernadette.
Bernadette.
I think you call me whatever. A commercial queen.
Commercial queen. That commercial girl. She is one of the heads of the commercial department over at Serhant, which is the fastest growing and most followed real estate firm in the entire world. Jade Shenker.
Thank you so much for that intro. Number one, I'm so excited to do this with you. Every time you come in the office, there's just this burst of energy, and the fact that I get to have you in one of my commercial listings that I'm actually renting out right now is super exciting. So thank you for having me.
While I want to learn a lot about you right now, I hope that from doing this, you learn some stuff about me as well. So let's talk about what you're doing right now. Tell me about your day-to-day and more so your role in commercial over at Serhant.
So I came on to Serhant whenever Ryan first brought on the gorgeous corner office that we now call home. And I originally, I come from like a real estate background. I never knew anything other than real estate.
Your entire life?
My entire life. My parents, my parents' parents, everyone was always in real estate. And whenever I came on, I was originally working for a property management company, and I pretty much managed a group of property managers to tell them, okay, how do we maximize the potential on a certain building? So
residential, commercial?
Both.
Okay.
So we worked on different portfolios and just figuring out, okay, how do we spice this up? How do we figure out like different ways to maximize, the revenue on a building? So through certain relationships, I ended up helping a friend sell a building, or two of his buildings. And we received an accepted offer for $46 million. Now, I knew the seller, and he's a little bit crazy. So I was like, okay, crap, I need to sign on to like a proper brokerage. So a friend connected me with a friend who connected me with the Ryan Serhant. And I was like, oh shit, I think I accidentally manifested this.
I got 46 million reasons why you got to bring Jade on at Serhant.
Yeah, super imposter syndrome, because I was like, oh my gosh, I've never done anything like this. Like I've never sold a building or anything. So fast forward, Ryan brought me on, and he's like, okay, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I just do commercial. And yeah, ever since then, unfortunately the deal actually didn't go through during the due diligence period.
What was the
address? 216 West 30th, and then I think 246 West 30th. I have to double check those addresses.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it sucked at first, but I think, it was, now I know through that how to do certain due diligence processes before we even put an offer on something.
Do you think that the burn wasn't so bad because you had never done a deal nearly that massive? And if you had ever done a deal half that massive, 46 million, let's say you had ever sold a $15 million listing, and you got that check from a $15 million listing. So now, knowing what that check looks like, do you think losing the 46 would have been 10 times more devastating?
That's actually a really good question. I don't know. I think I definitely built it up in my head. I tried not to talk about it with people. I was I kept it super private. I was I don't want to jinx it. But it was a low blow, and we put it in a contract twice.
Jeez, with different people.
Different people.
Oh
yeah.
my! What was the main issue?
So with buildings, especially in a certain district, certain buildings are subject to eminent domain, but it's sort of an opinion. It's kind of like saying, hey, your Zara shirt is going to shrink in a couple of years, or after a couple washes. Do I really know that? No, but I can assume because Zara is super fast fashion. that it is going to shrink after a couple washes. So that's kind of what they do. It's not something official, but it's speculatory, and an attorney is going to just assess the risks, and unfortunately that's what happened. But since then, we have been building out Ryan's commercial division, starting with investment sales and bringing it to retail and office leasing. But really the goal is to bring this sexy residential marketing approach to the commercial industry, which historically is so boring. Not only is it boring, it's not marketed at all.
I feel like that's very Sirhan and at the same time very Jade.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a Jade Sirhan combo. Bringing it to commercial, is that I didn't know about this. They're telling me this right now. Smart, super smart.
Oh my gosh,
and super sexy.
I mean, I think the first time
commercial real estate is so blah.
It is so blah, and it blows my mind because I understand so I mean, if we back it up, right? People didn't even start actually recording video tours of residential units until maybe let's say 2016, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember the first project I was on was a family's building, and it was so cute. I was so excited, I'm like fresh back from the city. I'm like, I'm gonna take over this building. I'm gonna be the best landlord ever. I'm like baking cookies. Stupid. I look back at myself and I just want to, because I'm like, you want to bake your tenants cookies? No, they're going to take advantage of you.
But you learned. It was a learning process.
No, I learned, but a couple mistakes.
It wasn't a mistake. I don't look at that as a mistake.
No, it was good. It was a good mistake because I learned from it.
And I don't mean it in a corny, there's no losses, there's only wins and learns. I don't mean it in that sense. I mean that you actually learned from it. You whatever totally. You did, it's not like you lost anything. You learned from the reaction that you then got, but you also got to spread your love, which is something that really speaks true to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that when it comes to making deals happen, it's really easy to get your ego involved in stuff too. And I think one of the cool things is I love what I do. If I never got paid a day in my life, I would still be doing what I do today. And
sometimes you could go a few months without getting paid a day in your life. In commercial.
That is true. Yeah. I think that especially right now, commercial's difficult. So you kind of have to get creative in order to close stuff. But I genuinely love what I do.
All right, so let's rewind. You said you were out the womb working in real estate. Tell me more about that. How did it all begin?
Well, on March 4th of 1996, Lenox Hill Hospital, my parents got the room hand-painted. And
is that true?
I swear. I don't know if they got it hand-painted, but I know it was hand-painted.
Okay.
Hand-painted room in Lenox Hill Hospital. I'm pretty sure it's still hand-painted. And so my dad was a developer here in New York, but he's a lot older. So he's I think he had me when he was 56, and my mom's younger. She was an actress and a model, and living her life. And kind of all I've ever known, I'm an only child, is real estate. So at 14, I was going through Craigslist and the Village Voice, which I don't know if you're from New York.
Yep.
You are? Okay, do you remember the Village Voice?
Yep.
Okay, so the Village Voice, so cute, 12-year-old, 13-year-old me, I'm going through it, and I'm highlighting for sale by owner, and I'm calling, and I'm trying to negotiate these deals for these buildings. I didn't even know where the cross streets were at that time. I was my dad never let me venture anywhere east of Avenue B.
Mm-hmm. Back in 2010, you didn't.
Yeah.
I moved to 5th between A and B, March 20.
Shut up.
March
between
20.
A. Okay, so the building that my first building, my dad still owns it. 4th between A and B.
Right around the corner.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're a neighbor.
I love that.
Whatever.
Yeah, I was there for 9 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you went to the Key Food?
Yeah.
That was the late night spot.
Late night spot, morning spot. That was my grocery store.
That was my grocery store. Whenever I didn't get them delivered, but it's so fucking good. And yeah, I mean, just like super early on, you know, my dad just, it was just like part of just like the culture that I grew up in is like, one, there's always a deal. Always a deal. No matter what, you can always get something done. If you have to travel to Texas and back and then buy the person's car or just whatever it is, there's always a way to get something done. And two was, can't even remember number two. But yeah, that was like the main thing.
The main thing is there's always a deal. But you're telling me you were going through Craigslist and you're going through the Village Voice, just circling for sale by owners. So you're telling me one hit, the one on 4th. You found that through the Village Voice?
Oh, no, that one was, my dad would, so what we'd do is he would just buy properties.
Oh, gotcha.
He would hold them and then he would either sell them or he'd get a bunch of investors and then the investors would buy in. And yeah, that's how I grew up. So in 2017, or maybe 2016.
Did you go to school for real estate development?
Originally I went to school for real estate, and I remember being in class, and they went through like the top careers, right, in real estate, and developer wasn't on one of those, and I was so confused, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, that's so interesting. Why isn't it there? And I'm going through it, and I'm sitting through class. One, I should mention, I failed microeconomics like twice, and I was like, fuck this. And I was like, also too, why do I need a real estate degree? I was like, what are they teaching me? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, you know, how to use Excel. I was like, I can Google that, or pay someone to do it. You know, whatever. So then I sucked at math in college. So I was like, okay, what's another major I can focus on? And I was thinking, I was like, what's the one thing that I can apply to any sort of industry I decide to tailor with real estate? Because, you know, the way that I was raised is like, you have multiple businesses. Both of my parents are very entrepreneurial. They're very like, you know, they like to invest in stuff, create, all of this stuff. And I was like, public relations. I was like, surely that is the best way to be able to brand myself. And I learned that really early on is, you know, whether it's a building or if I want to create a bike company, you know, learning how to market and brand yourself is just going to take this one product and put it in front of a million people. And just like sales, it's all about a numbers game. So I that's sort of the direction I went. And then I moved here, worked on a building. That was like my baby of a building, 197 East 4th Street.
197 East 4th
Street, yeah. So I was working on this building.
Do you have a picture of it? Not on your phone, just like, I feel like that's something you should have a picture of in your apartment.
Oh my God, okay, so 4th Street, and my dad used to own this block, and he sold every single one of the buildings besides this one building. And if you could picture it, all of the buildings are red exterior. This is the one building that has a white exterior. And I did the leasing for it. So first floor is a commercial space. Second, third, fourth are residential units. And I had somebody paint the outside like snakeskin. So if you walk and you see it, it's the building that's white with snakeskin on it. It's like the most Jade building ever. But yeah, so I took over the building back in 2014, and you know, the way that I actually got into leasing was I had a lot of friends from Australia, and I was like, okay.
How'd that come to be?
I actually dated someone from Australia.
Oh, where in Australia?
Sydney.
Dope. I'm assuming you went out there at least once or twice.
Yeah. And well, at the time I was dating, and
I studied abroad in Australia.
Oh, did you like it?
Loved it.
Do you know any slang words?
Just like goon, bogan. You know the goon?
What's a goon?
The goon?
Can you explain it?
Yeah, of course. Like you slap the goon, box wine.
When
you take the box wine out of the bag.
A goon is a box wine?
Yeah, the bag. You take the box wine out of the bag, and you just pass around the goon.
Okay, I think our college experiences are a little different.
Maybe. I mean, I was there in 2007.
Okay, goon.
Yeah,
Slap the goon.
You were 11.
Do you know, all right, so can you guess, drier than a dead dango's dong? Means you're thirsty.
I'm gonna get shit for not knowing that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another. Yeah, that's probably my favorite Australian slang word. But yeah, no, I remember I would create these Facebook groups for people in Australia.
Now give me a year. This is what, 2017?
This is like 2014.
Okay.
2014 to 2016. It was like, that was the era of me sort of figuring out, I'm like, okay, like these people are coming internationally to New York. How are they going to find an apartment? And that was an issue because back then, and you probably remember this, but back then it was really hard for people to get credit. Like if an Australian came to the US, even if they owned $17 million in liquid assets in Australia, they would come here and have to rebuild their credit.
I didn't realize that was a big issue.
Yeah, it was massive. So what I sort of did, I was like, okay, like let's use common sense here. And if you have a job, you can lease this apartment. And I used to do videos, market it, stuff like that. So we were able to increase the rents. I'm not going to use percentages. I'll say, increase the rents. The base rent in the building was $4,000, and we increased it to I think like an average of like $6,850.
Damn.
Yeah, just by, we did like room by room and marketing internationally, and then went from one building, and I had so many people coming to me from Australia, from London, from Dubai, from all these places. And I was like, crap, I need like more apartments. So I used to call the building owners next door. And I remember to this day, I had, I think, Jared Kushner's old phone number because he owned the building next to us. I remember calling him, and I'm like, didn't get an answer, but still I would call these owners and I'd be like, hey, do you have a 3-bedroom? Like the budget's up to $10,000 a month, and they would connect me with stuff. So that was really fun for me.
I feel like at that time you were calling him in Croman a lot.
Who?
Steve Croman?
Probably. I don't know.
9300?
If I showed you my contact list.
They have like 100 plus buildings in the city.
So this is what I do. This is the greatest broker hack ever. Can't believe I'm telling you this. But what I do is every time I talk to an owner, a tenant, a client, a guy on the street, I tag their name. So if we go to my contact list and we put owner, I have every single owner that I've spoken to, that I've remembered to do this with. And I tag their name and number and then what they own. So that way, every time I speak to them, or if I'm like, oh my gosh, that building's fucking amazing, or I remember this and this and this about this building, I can just hop into my contact list and I'll remember what they own. And sometimes they'll call me and
I love that. So while you're doing this, you're building up this website or just Facebook?
Just Facebook Marketplace.
So you're building up your Facebook Marketplace. What kind of support did you have from your dad, who was a real estate developer at the time?
So
moral support and I don't know if it's financial support, but just support.
Yeah, I think it's actually a good question. I think that he never. I'd be lying to be like, oh, he was so supportive. No, I mean, I kind of just, I was assigned a duty, and it wasn't. I didn't see it like a job. It was just something that you did. It was
support could also be treating you the way you should be treated as an employee.
I think he always saw me as a daughter. He always saw me as like a daughter who's, running a family, just doing it, right? I think it wasn't really like great job or anything like that. It was more of like, okay, well, you're doing what you were born to do, what you were raised to do. So, I've never looked at it like a job or anything like that. It's like, okay, you're born. This is what you have to do. This is your duty almost. But I've taken really, really great pride in it because, I think to love what you do is it's a blessing.
100%. And not only that, you're doing this and you haven't you've been throwing years out there, but to do that at a relatively young age is super commendable.
It was fun.
Think about it. You were doing this at 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were doing this at 18 years old.
Yeah.
At 21 is when you were kind of taking it to the next level. That's when a lot of people, that's when most people are still in that like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Who am I? And they're still in that what am I gonna do, who am I for the next few years, whereas you were eating and breathing real estate and trying to elevate the game. Now at 21 years old, 2017, what was it that then pushed you to elevate your game?
So I had fallen in love, and the person who I'd fell in love with had an opportunity in Boston. So I moved to Boston, and I worked for other companies for the first time. So I worked for Oxford Properties and another like small family
Was
office.
it easy finding a job there?
Well, it's funny because I was like, okay, let me like venture into PR, and every single PR job, and I thought I was the shit. I was like, here's what I'll do to all of your clients. This is the strategy. I mean, I was so excited, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna pass. And the second I applied for any real estate position, it was like a match made in heaven. So it was just naturally easy, and it was fun. I mean. Real estate is exciting, and I ended up working for Oxford Properties whenever they were
in Boston.
Yep, Oxford. Oh, so their regional office.
Got it.
They oversee New York, Boston, Canada, all of the Northeast.
So 21-year-old Jade got a job with
Oxford Properties. Yeah, I know. Now that I look, and I'm like, oh crap! Wow, that's kind of cool.
Very cool.
So I was working for the regional office, and
What were you doing?
What is the title? I think it was
Well, screw the title. What were you doing? Moved to Boston. What were you doing? And if we can go down that path, how long were you in Boston? And paint us a picture for what time in Boston was like, and then what brought you back.
Oh, okay. Well, I had never been to Boston before I decided to move there.
You know, I didn't go to Boston for more than the first almost 36 years of my life as a New Yorker. I never went to Boston.
You could have skipped it.
I was just so anti-Boston. It's just how they raise New Yorkers.
That was fair.
I didn't drink Sam Adams till I was like 23.
Wait, what?
Sam Adams, because it's a Boston lager.
You didn't drink Boston lager because...
Until I was in my mid-20s, because it was from Boston.
So you were that instilled in hating Boston.
Uh-huh.
What did you think after you went?
They probably have the best seasonal beers.
Shut the fuck up.
They probably have the best seasonals.
That's
It's great.
amazing.
Listen, Boston egg creams my whole life, or Boston cream donuts my whole life. Can't not have a Boston cream. Anything else Boston couldn't do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, their beer's that good.
Yeah, if you're a New Yorker, you're a diehard Yankee fan, that's how you live.
Oh shit! Wow.
In a classy way. Whereas for Boston people, it would be the
Wow.
I'll say the unclassy.
So like I had no hate towards Boston before I lived there.
Oh, go on.
And then I went because I was like, oh, surely this is like a Chicago, or like a mini New York. No, I think that Boston literally takes everything that's amazing about New York, and it turns it on its head, and it's the exact opposite. New York, amazing drink specials, happy hours. Boston, no, don't have that. New York, amazing fashion, everybody, just interesting, all of this stuff. Boston, everybody dresses like they're in a rush for their college exam. 3, New York, things are open 24/7. You can get food anytime. When I tell you, when I moved to Boston, I moved to North End, so it was the coolest neighborhood. I get there, and I go watch like a, not football, basketball game. Basketball game finishes. Every single restaurant is closed. I'm like, it's 9:30 p.m. Like, how do people live? I had to go to 7-Eleven to get
So how long
food.
did you live in Boston?
6.5 months.
At what month? At what number month were you like, I got to get out of here? 2 days, 2 months?
2 months.
2 months.
2 months. Yeah. First month I was like bouncing around. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I remember going to Cambridge, where Harvard is, and went to a library, and I was like, okay, cool, there must be a speakeasy here. It was a real library, but it was just like, it's just like the worst. I mean, I hate Boston. I think,
So how'd you get back to New York? How'd you and then what did you do job transition wise?
That's actually an interesting story. So I was super sad in Boston. I had no friends, and I was like, I have to move back. Like, I'm so unhappy.
Now you use the word sad. Would you say you were sad, distraught, upset? Like what level? Like what level?
I think just like
what's the adjective that you'd throw out there to actually describe how you felt about living in Boston?
I think lonely is the proper word. Like I was so excited about life, and I love creativity and people, and it was the first time where I was like, oh wow, like I just feel so lonely and bland, and I'm not inspired, and there's no like pizzazz, like there's no passion here, and I couldn't do it, and I was really, I wasn't in a good place mentally at that time. So I remember it kind of pushed me into a little bit more into like my spiritual journey, which I'm a very spiritual person. And I remember writing down on a piece of paper, I was like, I want to make X amount per year. Or I was like, I will make, or whatever the term is, I will make $75,000 a year. That was one, which was a decent amount back then, at like a 23-year-old, 22-year-old.
For a 22-year-old now, it's a decent amount.
And then I remember I also said, I was like, I'm going to work for a building making multi-million-dollars a month. And essentially a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn, and she recruited me. I interviewed with a company. It was like the most perfect match of a company that I could work for. And the building I ended up working for, at first, I increased their rents by like 40%, like just massively in the peak of COVID. And then I started overseeing a multitude of buildings, and it was sort of where I was like, oh shit, like I'm really good at what I do, because I know what people want, and I've been around the real estate industry so much where I'm like, I understand when somebody walks into something how they want to feel, and I just kept applying that to both residential and commercial properties. And thankfully I sort of got the opportunity to make the jump from sort of more corporate lifestyle to Ryan Serhant's brokerage.
I love that. And while you're in the middle of doing that, do you have a mentor who you're asking, kind of someone you can go to, because these are a lot of big life changes. Mm-hmm. Moving to Boston, moving back from Boston, changing from corporate to non-corporate, and there's big changes that you've made in life. Are you reading anything at this point? Are you listening to certain podcasts?
Ooh.
Is there something that gives you, what is it that is giving you guidance and inspiration? Because at a young age, you don't know anything. Not to say you don't know anything, but you don't know anything.
I didn't know shit.
You know nothing. You're
No.
literally learning as you go.
Yeah.
Who was somebody that you could ask these questions to? Or what was a book or books or a podcast that you leaned on?
That's actually a really good question. I think that first, like anything that I'm afraid of, I'm like, okay, I have to do this. I'm like, this is a sign, I have to do this. I mean, all of these things I was so afraid of doing. And
Did you decide that, or do you have like someone that you talk to who was like, Jade, you need to attack everything head on, and if you're scared of it, you need to attack it 100 miles per hour head on?
Yeah, so the man who I had fallen in love with, who I ended up marrying, he was very supportive in the fact of like, okay, you should do this, but I think that I was just like raised to like do scary things. I think like I don't know. I think like I've always been really clear as far as like what I want in life, and like being very business focused. But I think like a lot of podcasts, I'm a huge podcast person. There's a really good one called Big Conversations by Haley Hoffman Smith. Obsessed with it. I live and breathe by it. And then there's another one, Weekly Energy Boost, which is very Kabbalah. I think anytime I was like, oh my gosh, should I do this change? And I'm telling you my wins right now. There's a lot of things that I would classify as losses too. Mm-hmm. Things that I said no to that probably would have been incredible opportunities to learn. I'm proud with the route that I took. But I think that I've had many mentors, mostly, the husband has been a great mentor. I think a lot of podcasts, and then the CFO of the old company that I was working at.
What's his name or her name?
So there was two. A.B. Friedman.
She deserves a shout out.
Yeah. And then Moses Berkovics. Two of the guys who, really took my real estate experience, and they just like literally took a firework and just lit it on fire. I mean, the things that I you learn whenever you're part of a really tight knit real estate community in New York City, the relationships, everything. And that's why I say, I think a lot of people, whenever they get into the real estate industry, especially working as a broker, everyone says, join a team. And I respect that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's for some people. However, that's not the advice I would give.
Yep. So I've been in real estate for over 14 years. And the whole team thing became so prevalent like 2-3 years ago. And I'd never done it up until like 11 and a half years. No, 11 and a half years, 12 and a half years, 12 and a half years I'm doing it on my own. And wow. I'm elevating my brand. TMB comes out 2017.
That's sick. Sick name.
Elevating it. Thank you. The Millennial Broker comes out fall 2017. Uh-huh. And I'm elevating it year by year. My business is going up. I leave a small boutique firm and I go to this massive company. Mm-hmm. And my business is going up. And then you know what? I realized I'm not a big box firm type of person. Let's check out, I got contacted by Sirhan. Mm-hmm. When I went there, it had the same small boutique vibe, mm-hmm. but everybody was a fucking winner.
Yeah.
And the energy in that office is amazing. And I remember the first time walking in the office, and I see Paul sitting there. Yeah. And Paul was my manager 10 years prior.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Do you think it was fate?
I do.
Wow.
And Sirhan just aligns with my brand. Mm-hmm. It aligns with your brand, it aligns with my brand, and it's a company that really wants to elevate the people who are in the house.
Yeah.
Singly, while having support from everybody around.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so where were you before? Remind me?
I was at Compass for 2 years.
Compass.
A little over 2 years I was at Compass, and before that, I was at Level Group for 11 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Was it a big change going from Compass to Sirhan?
In such a great way.
Yeah.
Compass, I guess there was a lot of red tape. The management there was piss poor. Literally, I had such a terrible experience with more than one manager. And they were very much about pushing Compass.
Okay.
Like all branding, everything, and like just everything in-house was very rah-rah and very Compass. Whereas like I'm not about that. Like my brand's TMB.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I don't think I've ever asked you, if you were to give like your brand 3 words, what would it be?
What do you mean?
Your brand, like you.
Like
TMB.
Like what is TMB?
Mm-hmm.
Empathetic,
Mm-hmm.
forward thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and instinctively in my head, I'm thinking, what's a good word to describe being a master of negotiating, or being a master at being super transactional. So whatever word fits that goes there.
I'm trying to think of the word. I guess like negotiate. Like.
Also, I'll go with inspiring, because I don't know if you were talking about the team or me myself.
Yeah.
But I thrive to inspire.
Mm-hmm.
I like to touch people in a way where when I leave them, they're feeling better than they were before I saw them. And I mean, you touched on that. I don't know if it was before we started the podcast or before we were talking, but you're saying like when I walk in the room, it kind of like brightens up. And whether it's you meant that or you were just saying that, I do it on purpose because I want people to smile. I want people to feel good. A lot of people always think about the negative things in life, when there's always going to be negative things. But if you're focusing on the positive, then you're going to be a positive person. You're going to have a positive outlook on life.
Totally.
And there's certain things that you can do, certain things you could put into your body, not just working out and eating right, because those are the things that you put out, and when you put out, you get out, but also positive energy. If you put in positive energy, you then put out positive energy. So when you're listening to a podcast about positive energy, when your headphones go off and you go about your day and you talk to somebody, you're gonna instill that in the person you're talking to. And if they come at you with negative energy, you're not gonna push positivity, you're not gonna push your positivity on them, but essentially it'll flow into them.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna smile and you're gonna know exactly how to make them feel good, because what's it all about?
Totally. I think that's amazing. It's funny. There's a great app that I use too, and it's called Think Up, and it trains your brain. You record your affirmations, and then you listen to it first thing in the morning, whenever your brain's in this like incredible receiving wavelength. And it's like, I think people don't realize how powerful your thoughts are. Because I think it radiates, whether you walk into a room and, just how you act, or dealing with people, like, mannerisms, the way that you hold yourself. Like, I think that, like, the way that you look at life and your outlook is so important. So I couldn't agree more with you.
100%. And talking about apps, front screen of my app, it's called the Motivation app.
Shut up! I have the same one.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at this. Boom.
We both have the widget.
But like literally, open up my phone.
What does yours say? I'm curious.
Whatever you do, good or bad, people will always have something negative to say.
Oh, that's great. Oh wait, wrong one. Mine says successful people are always looking for opportunities to help others. Unsuccessful people are asking, what's in it for me?
There you go. Does it have one that it there's one that constantly...
Every 30 minutes.
So it changes every 30 minutes, but I have one that's like there relatively frequently. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it resets in the morning and it's always there, mm-hmm. but it's do more of what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Do more of what makes you happy. And that is something that like, I read it so much, mm-hmm. and it sticks with me. It sticks with me so much. Mm-hmm. Not that I need that affirmation, mm-hmm. but I love it.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's funny. I think like in a lot of different industries, I think people aren't happy, with work because they can't find their passion within the work environment, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said, you love inspiring others, and it's great because you have the ability to build your personal brand and include whatever it is you want. This podcast, you know, and things both drive business, but also it itches, you know, your like the fire inside you to inspire others, and I think that like there's certain industries where you're able to do that, but industries that are a little bit more cookie cutter, people. And the great thing about social media is, you know, you have the ability to itch that, you know, whatever it is, whether you like teaching people or inspiring others or traveling or whatever it is, you know, you kind of have the ability to have an outlet to itch that with social media, which is fucking massive. Like, I don't know what people did before that.
No, and that's if people, I guess I'll say, if people have the, I don't want to say have the balls, but if people have the balls to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. A
Yeah.
lot of people are scared to a lot of people are scared to do more of what makes them happy.
Totally. That's it's always surprising to me because I think, like, you know, I'm the type of person, like, I will try 1,000 things, and I think, like, what I've seen more, I think, like, in women to women, you know, people always, you know, it's like this very catty sometimes where, you know, someone's like, oh my God, look at what she's posting. Oh, look at this, look at that. And it's like, you know, for me, like.
Are you talking about, like, in general, or about you?
Well, I'll speak from my experience because I can't talk for every woman's experience in the world. But I think that, like, it's really, really interesting to me because it's like, for me, I'm a businesswoman before anything, so I'm gonna try 1,000 things, and it's like women, especially, just, you know, it's like ingrained in culturally to like be like, oh my God, what is she doing? What is that? Like, oh, did you see that? And I'm like, you know, whatever it is I'm doing, like, it's working, and you know, I think as I get older, especially in like the business sense and the sense of, okay, you know, what can I do to fuel my soul too? It has been just cutting out a lot of the negative energy from people and just being like, okay, well, you know, does this feed into my business goals, or does this feed into, you know, my passion, my you know, my drive, the excitement?
Referring to what?
I think social media. I think, you know, for me, I would say that my approach to social media is probably unconventional to what, you know, the typical real estate broker posts about.
Which is what I fucking love. It's what I love. Like, when someone says to me, but this is how it's done. What do you mean this is how it's done?
Yeah.
Well, that people don't post like. What do you mean people don't post like that? I post like that. Jade posts like that.
Yeah, totally.
That's who you are. All right, so talking about personal branding and elevating yourself, what else are you working on right now outside of real estate?
Oh my God, outside of real estate?
Outside of real estate. Because we're talking about passion. We're talking about branding yourself and being, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, honestly, like, my entire life really revolved, like, I love real estate. I genuinely love it. But I think other than that, you know, I love business. You know, all of my, every time I get very excited, my creative brain is like, okay, what else? And I'm like, all right, magazine cover. And I'm like, let's fucking do it. Or I'm like, let's write a book, you know, or investing in business. So I started a book. I just, even
started
if it's
writing
just for
a
me.
book?
Yeah, I started writing a book.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
How far along are you?
9 chapters.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, you know, it might just be something that, like, I just use for myself. But I think it's really cool whenever you're going through something, like you're actually in the midst of something where you're like, oh shit, I don't know if I could get through this.
So would you, no, you're writing a book versus journaling.
Writing a book versus journaling.
So you're not journaling. You're writing a book about what's going on in your life, but in a form, but in book form.
Yeah, like a couple months ago, I was going through something, like, literally the hardest time in my life I've ever dealt with. And I was like, shit. I was like, this sucks. And every time I had an
If
appointment.
anybody who is going through the worst time of their life react to it, just like, this sucks.
Dude.
That's some positive energy.
No, it fucking sucked. Like,
It's a positive way of saying it.
Oh my God. And
Okay.
like, I was going through this while we were working on this really big project, where it required me to be very front facing with social media and business. And I was like, shit, the stuff that I'm going through fucking sucks. Like, very tough.
Big project at work?
Including work, yeah.
Okay.
And every time I had an appointment with any of my 17 different healers, I would write down sort of what was working for me. I'd write down, the notes, the overview, the lessons, and I was so ingrained in, okay, Jade, how do I get through this? How do I get through this? How do I get through this? And I took just like a bunch of notes, and I was like, okay, at the end of this, whenever I feel good, I'm just gonna start writing what I'm learning. And I was like really proactive with it, and then about a month ago, I was like, okay, let me put this in a fucking book. And whenever I go through another hurdle in my life, I can go back to this. And, whether I use it as something where I share with others, that'd be great. Or if I'm like, you know what, this is just my super organized way to remind myself of sort of what I went through and those lessons, then, I might just do it for that. But that's a good thing.
You write it down, or you type it?
I type. Yeah, I type. I actually, I do type to text on my computer. It helps me because sometimes,
you talk and it transcribes.
Yeah, it talks. I talk and it transcribes it. But other than that, I mean, building out the commercial division has been the bulk of my time, because it's both business, but also, okay, like this branding, and okay, how do we create these like insane video ideas to sell a property and to get this commercial property in front of as many people as possible. Both of those things have been taking a lot of my time.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, it's sick. I don't know, I haven't posted it yet, but we did a dance music video into one of our listings, which is like probably the craziest thing I've ever done so far.
I love that.
And then we just we're about to put it in contract.
Very, very Jade Shenker.
I know. But the project, hopefully I'll be able to talk about the project in the coming months. But
looking forward to it.
Okay, good.
That's all I'll say. Looking forward to it.
Okay, good.
All right. So, throughout all this, are you reading anything?
I am. I'm really into audiobooks. Hold on, actually, I'm gonna tell you the name of one that I'm reading right now.
And you're telling me the name because you like it and you'd recommend it.
I love it. But it, I think it depends on what level of spirituality you are.
Okay.
But one of the books that I'm reading right now is called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity.
Dynamic Laws of Prosperity.
Laws of Prosperity, yeah. By Catherine Ponder.
Is it narrated by a male or a female?
By a female. Okay. The narration isn't that interesting, but it sort of just like talks about like just the premise, and this is without getting too woohoo, is just really just harnessing into your body and understanding, okay, like what are the thoughts that are going through my head, because our thoughts are so powerful, and then just little subtle changes that you make throughout the steps, whether it's your morning, being like, okay, like this is my coffee cup, it's in my hand, I'm drinking it, like just being very mindful. And then, whenever you practice those daily practices, you take it into the workplace and you take it into all these things, and suddenly you kind of see this little rainbow of luck that follows you, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow, like being mindful and sort of doing things like this is the positive effects of it. Of course, there's always going to be negative times, but it sort of prepares you to have certain outlets and certain mindfulness. But this is very focused on money. So this is what I'm reading right now. But another really great book. Let me go
I love
through
that.
this.
Well, give me what's one book that you would recommend to anybody to read?
Ooh, it's a really good question. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincere.
So if you recommend any book for one person to read, it's
You Are a Badass by Jen Sincere. I think that's her name.
Big yellow cover.
Yeah, did you read it?
No, but it's well known.
Okay.
I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a good book.
Is it and I don't mean to come off like, is it a feminist book? Like, is it like a girl power book? Because I think I know the cover, because I feel like I've seen girls posting that they've read it.
Well, I think it's female read. Actually, I think the only book that I have that's male read is Hoe Tactics.
Hoe Tactics?
H-O Tactics.
Oh, not H-O-E Tactics.
Well, I mean, it's implied Hoe Tactics.
Oh, got it. So I got the Audible of Conversations with God.
Uh-huh.
And it's a guy having conversation with God.
Uh-huh.
And it's completely read in a male's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm listening to this and I'm like, there should be a version of this where conversation with God, where God is
a woman. Maybe.
Why is that not a thing? The book was written, Conversation with God. It had no implication that God was male, but meanwhile the book is narrated by a male.
That's interesting. I mean, I think maybe they were in a room together and they're like, dude, do you want to be God for my book? And then the guy was like, all right, fuck yeah.
I think they need a new version.
I mean, I will gladly be the voice of God.
Your voice, you could do audibles.
I would probably hate it, but...
Have you ever done any acting or voice acting?
I did some acting growing up. My mom was an actress, so she was like, always like, Jade, audition, this, that. But I hated rejection. I was like, fuck this. And I was like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. Like, I want to be the person investing in the movies. That was always my thing. I was like, I don't want to be just this thing. I was like, I want to.
You think you ever see yourself going in front of the camera?
I love being in front of the camera.
Well, on like a more grander scale, do you think you ever see yourself doing like a movie or television? Yeah.
I think potentially. I think if the right opportunity came up.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. And what do you see the next 3 to 6 months looking like for Jade Shenker?
3 to 6.
3 to 6 months. So we're not going to go that far in the future.
Well.
Like, what does early 2024 look like for Jade Shenker?
Early 2024. Let's say 25 mil in closings. Let's say I would have invested in my first company, hopefully. I would say, hopefully complete with this book. And I'll probably be able to revert back some more audiobooks that I've done. But honestly, right now it's just really focused on selling and building out this commercial division. We're looking to make some new hires pretty soon.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like in the commercial sector.
Yep. In the commercial, our commercial division. Because realistically, we're just getting we're so blessed. A lot of developer friends and everyone, we're starting to take on a lot of listings and we're really small, so we're able to put a lot of effort toward every single listing. But in order to do that, we're going to have to start building out a bigger team.
Let's talk. TMB does commercial.
Okay,
we
well,
have
good.
done many of commercial deals.
I love that. Well, what do you think about this space that we're in?
I love this space, and I'm happy that you brought me to one of your commercial listings. What's this selling for or renting for?
$22,000 a month for lease, or we'd also sell the space for $3 million.
Noted.
Yeah, it's gorgeous space. I mean, this is like prime Tribeca, like one of the top wealthiest zip codes in New York City, if not probably the U.S.
It's I think top 10 wealthiest zip codes in the U.S.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. Right, 2-minute walk from 443 Greenwich, which is where Taylor Swift and, all of the celebrities live. You walk outside and it's just like the most beautiful views.
Yep.
So it's a no-brainer.
What type of client do you see moving in here? So we're at 345 Greenwich, to put it out there.
Yeah, 345
And
Greenwich.
Someone who is a boss at Manifestation, what type of client do you see renting or buying 345 Greenwich?
An aesthetics company. I think somebody who focuses on injectables. I can see that in this neighborhood. I think it's needed on this block. I actually just toured before you guys came here a tattoo removal company, which is interesting. But I think my job is to understand consumer behavior. Even though I show properties and it's amazing, the reason that I'm good is because I understand what businesses do well in certain areas, especially in Lower Manhattan. And for this area, injectables would do extremely well. Doctors.
Injectables meaning like Botox?
Yeah, so Botox, stuff like that. Anything that caters to the body and wellness. I'm starting to see
We should talk to our homies over at the Sisu Clinic.
You know the Sisu people too?
I know the Sisu people too.
How do you know them?
I am not ashamed to say that I have gotten Botox.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it out there.
That's amazing.
When you're on camera as much,
yeah,
and you're front facing with people and you're not 27 anymore,
yeah,
and you're 37.
Yeah.
Part of taking care of my body was not just I stopped drinking, but also I started doing Botox up here.
I love that. Also, Sisu is amazing. I'm actually helping them expand.
There you go.
They would do really well here, but they actually just opened up another location in Ireland.
Yep.
So they're pausing, but yeah, they're amazing. I love that you do Botox because more guys, or in general, I think just Botox in general, injectables, it's about your wellness and how you care about your body.
And also, Botox isn't I think a lot of people look at it like it's like a plastic surgery.
Really?
But it's not.
No.
It's not. It's literally similar to going to the gym or eating well. It's just something that you're doing to, some enhance your some enhance your body, some enhance your appearance. And a lot of people work out to enhance their appearance. This is something that enhances your appearance. And just like any muscle that you need to work out, you need to redo it every few months.
Yeah. I think Botox, it's like acupuncture on steroids.
Sure, which I do that
That's
too.
what we're just gonna say. Oh, I love acupuncture.
Love.
Have you done it?
Of course.
Yeah.
I got my girl Ping, shout out Dr. Ping in Chinatown on Baxter.
Oh, sick.
She's fantastic. Oh yeah, acupuncture. She does acupuncture, cupping, electro, yada yada.
Oh, I gotta try her out then.
She is like a magician.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I see someone like that here. But really, I mean, we'll see what happens. But
amazing.
It's a
and
great space.
I love the space, but our time is about up. But before I let you go, give me one word of advice for anyone trying to make it.
I think for anyone trying to make it, the best piece of advice is to get in touch with your inner child a lot, and remember, what is it that really fuels your soul, right? Whenever we're kids, there's so many things that we want to do and we love, and try to figure out how to incorporate that in your life, whether it's through work or through social media or through something, and I think through that, you'll find your path. But yeah, I think that's, yeah.
I love that in more ways than one. I just love that in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like love.
Yeah, it's important. I think, you know, we have these big dreams whenever we're younger, and then we're always told, even our friends, like the things, and look, next year we'll sit down again and I'll be able to say more things. But the things that I've told people that I wanted to do, and everyone was like, you're crazy. They're like, that's impossible. And I'm like, is it? I'm like, you know, there's other things that seem really impossible. And I think just like relentlessly just being like, you know what if? Like, what if I take this hour and I just actually believe that I can, you know, do whatever it is that I think is possible. If you have a dream about it, you know, it means it's possible. You just have to be a little bit crazy and be like, fuck you, like to anyone who thinks that this is impossible. Even if you try it and you get 30% of the way there, 30% is better than 0. So that's the advice that I would give.
Speaking my language.
Yeah. Thank you. You did it!
Jade Shenker, keep an eye out, because if you think that she's been following her dreams, she's just getting started.
Thank you for having me.